We need to support our local producers. Why can I not drive 10 minutes to my local dairy and get my milk, my real milk? Why can I not do that when I'm not getting sick and none of us have gotten sick? But I can still buy those berries in supermarkets in Australia, but I can't go to my local dairy and support him, give him 4 times the amount he's getting from his from the dairy. Why is this so ludicrous?
So I come from a very different realm. I come from the other end, not so much the farming end, but I'm seeing what the food that we are now giving to our children is doing to our children and adults. Do you know that there is a growing number of children that can't even drink their mother's milk? There's a disease that doesn't allow them to digest the protein of the mother's milk, and therefore they have to drink a medicalised milk that is filled with high fructose corn syrup, canola oil and amino acids with some synthetic vitamins and minerals. This is their only option that's available. We've done something wrong. I was brought up in the 60s and 70s in a town called Bendigo. I live in Queensland now, and in that town I remember there was no ADD, no ADHD, no autism, no Asperger's that I saw in my community. There was none of the allergies that we see today. We now have allergies that have increased tenfold in the last 10 years amongst our children. Everybody seems to be allergic to gluten and dairy. I wonder why. Could it be because we pasteurise it, homogenise it, skim it, trim it, wrap it, shape it, put calcium in it, add fish oil to it, which they do in New South Wales? Is that why we are having a problem with dairy now? You know, I was in front of 600 people the other day speaking with another food advocate, and Chef Pete Evans, and the people in the room were just wanting to see what do we do to go back to basics. Our culture and tradition tells us what to do to go back to basics. Our culture and tradition is what will tell us how to farm. We've been eating raw milk for 10,000 years. I'm just wondering if they're going to take blueberries and charge $60,000 for a family member who gives blueberries to their families. You know, what they're doing with milk. And what about the caramelized apples that killed 35 people in the US last year? Are we going to have a $60,000 fine for giving your kid a caramelized apple? Do you see the ludicrousy of what we're doing? And I know every single one of you don't. I mean, you see the ludicrousy. It's the ones out there that aren't listening. And that's what we need to get to. So I want to thank Lisa and Darren for doing such an amazing job, and the people I'm going to be involved in this next 24 hours, because I love seeing this. I've been doing this for 30 years and it feels like I've been doing it by myself, but no longer. I can see a real revolution. Do we want a revolution? Do we need a revolution? Is it now for the revolution? The food revolution. The politicians are going to have to follow us because they're not listening to us. They're going to have to follow us. We are leading this grassroots movement and they're going to have to follow us.
You know, we live in a time when our government officials equate sterility with safety. Now, I've got news for you. I've had a weird eating situation for the last, trip here while I've been coming over, but I've still got 3 trillion bacteria inside of me right now. So do you, so does everybody walking around out here. We are not sterile. And you can decide whether a society is free or not by how it treats the heretics, the weirdos. You know, the Romans had a saying that you could tell the strength of a society by the number of laws. It said that the weaker a society, the more laws it had, the stronger a society, the fewer laws that it had. Why? Because when a society is very strong, hey, a few lunatics around the fringe, who's scared of them? Sure, let them go be weird, that's okay. We're strong, we're vibrant, we can handle that. But when a society becomes fragile, paranoid, fearful, vapid, weak, the only thing it can do is pass laws. hype us up on testosterone and pass some law. You know, all right, God, we're going to pass some law. and I would suggest that the fact that we now take everybody who dares to think differently, who dares to embrace a different drummer, and try to criminalize them, marginalize them, and demonize them, indicates not a strong society, but an incredibly weak, paranoid society. Who cares if we want to buy food, have the food choice from the source of our choice? What difference does it make? And so my big question is, so who owns me? I mean, ultimately, who owns me? Does the government own me? Does my neighbor own me? Who's responsible for this 3 trillion member internal bacterial community?
But I think it's time, don't you? I think the raw milk thing is an example where it's time. And I think today we actually came to talk about fair food. The raw milk story certainly set a lot of us off in terms of unfairness and governmentality. So there are a lot of things happening in regulation right now, but what is regulation actually for? I think our government's forgotten what it's actually for. Regulation protects us from invisible systems. The people here talking about food are growing food or buying food in deeply local connected systems. We need a different form of regulation.
Should I go so far as to say revolution? Yes. Food is political. Food is our business, and food is something that we all have in common, whether we're left, right, centre right, or left, right, out. The bottom line is that every day we engage with a food economy. We engage with the future of food by virtue of the choices that we make. And our decisions are changing awareness around our food future. Individual consumers, it's sort of like really so easy to think, oh, what does it matter? What does my choice matter? I'll just buy those frozen berries. I'll just buy that heat-treated UHF milk. I'll just buy that frozen, made from imported and local produce. What does that mean? As local consumers, as individuals, we can drive change. We need transparency in labelling for starters. Yep. I need to know what does made from local and imported ingredients mean.
I'm just one of you. No different to any of you, but we in the country are so blessed. We are able to have our local food and eat it too. So this movement to stop all that, is it jealousy or is it just callousness? I think probably the latter, although we'd like to think that those of us who are in power there, who will probably be looking for the same good food we are, have some idea of what their children are going to be up against in the future. And if they don't support local food and local connection and local resilience, there won't be anything to support at all in the future, because these big systems hopefully will fall to bits all by themselves.